Welcome to day 3 of the Future of SaaS Festival. Today we will be featuring our bonus content, some of the very best presentations from our previous festivals. While speakers will not be joining for live Q&A, you can reach them in the Future of SaaS Slack group. Thanks again to our partners for their support, and to you, our audience, for tuning in. Enjoy the festival.
Hi everyone, this is Yasmin Helmi from Cairo, Egypt. I'm currently quarantined there and this is actually my hometown. I wish you guys a great day, afternoon, night, wherever you guys may be, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy. Today I'm going to talk to you about building your first growth engine. Most of the startups or SaaS products that are on the market when they first start out, founders usually feel like, okay, so now we have an MVP. We kind of know the persona that we want to go after, and we basically want to start driving in revenues, and we want to start driving in growth. And that's where they hire or they actually embark on the mission to start a growth engine or a growth team. And this is exactly what I've been doing for the past 5 years. So before jumping in and talking about the growth engine itself, I wanted to just do a first things first slide where I introduce myself to you guys. When I started out at Instabug, the company that I'm currently leading growth at, I didn't know anything about growth marketing. I was majoring in business administration, focusing on generic marketing, the typical advertising, digital marketing that you would learn. And also I didn't have any technical background, and I ended up joining one of the most technical startups that someone could join. So this is a slide just to give a disclaimer for anyone who's embarking on a journey to start growth, that you don't have to have a technical background. And that's actually an article I wrote for the Instabug's blog. So rest easy. It's all about the process. So I'll just get to it with the presentation, and please feel free to ask any questions or leave feedback. That's something I've been experimenting with for the past while. And definitely there are a lot of failed learnings, like I like to call them. So let's get right to it. So first of all, I want to introduce what Instabug is. So because most of my examples would be related to Instabug, I'll be giving some fictitious numbers, but it relates in a way to what I want to get out of the presentation and the session. So Instabug, what it does is basically we help or empower mobile teams to release their applications with confidence without them having to worry that they have any bugs or crashes on their app. Because the problem that usually mobile teams face is that when they launch their apps or they launch a new release, if the application is buggy, most people would either give a very bad review, or they would just entirely delete the app and be done with it. And that's something that we want to help mobile teams eliminate. And also we want to make sure that the mobile teams, whether they are in product management or in engineering roles, they have access to talk to their beta testers and to talk to their end users through an intuitive in-app experience. So in a nutshell, what Instabug does is that it helps. We're a B2B company selling software as a service. So our software basically helps other businesses that have mobile applications to make sure that their apps are flawless and that they are enjoying and their customers are enjoying the experience. So when I joined, first of all, when the first thing I did was to basically do like a market scoping to see where Instabug fits, why it was built, and who it was built for, to be able to identify the things that we should focus on to start our growth engine. So I had a list of questions. These questions would help you basically very high level to understand where you should start, so to speak. So one of the first things I had in mind, we had in mind, was basically that it stems from the company's mission itself and why the company itself was built. And I wanted to understand the exact problem or gap that we were solving and for which market. So in our case, it was the mobile apps market. Definitely for any industry or any market that you're penetrating, you would have some stats on how big it is, who are the main players, what is the main challenges in this market. And that's something that we did and research on thoroughly to understand the mobile apps market as a whole. And we wanted to penetrate the gap, which was the app quality and is the app quality. We wanted to make sure that the apps market, there are tons of tools that help in engagement, it helps in developing the products faster, making sure that the apps are released on time. But then we saw a gap where basically some of the apps that are used by millions of users and apps that everyone is actually liking that have issues, and it's not the best of quality. And that was the first thing that I noticed, or any one of you needs to have very clearly, because obviously if you tell me what would be the gaps that is in the market that we're currently focused on, you can go on and on about the problems that you see and what things you could enhance, but then to clearly articulate it in 1 or 2 words, that would help you in later down to understand exactly what needs to be done. So the second thing was, okay, so if there's this gap, what would be our solution? When we started out, it wasn't the same solution I added here, but basically when we started out, it was, since there is a problem in app quality, we're building a bug reporting solution where basically anyone who encounters a bug would have an easy way to report it. But then it later transitioned into us building a platform where basically this platform gives context to the teams that are working on this platform with the relevant insights to help them iterate faster and make their apps better and and produce higher quality apps. So the business model, as I told you earlier, it's a B2B SaaS model. And the ones who are going to benefit are the mobile teams, not just any mobile team, but the teams who are focused on mobile first. Their bread and butter is mobile, and they are entirely focused on making sure that their apps are very functional and alive. The interesting part about you doing this, even if it seems very simple, is that it gives you a chance to uncomplicate the things that you usually complicate in your mind. Because when you're starting out as a founder or as an early member or just founding the growth team, a lot of ideas would be running in your head. You'll feel like it's a bit complicated. So it needs to be, at the end of the day, it needs to be super clear to yourself so that you would be clear to your users as well. The thing that we're focused on the most, which is the North Star metric, is actually the annual recurring revenues. Since we're a subscription model, our main metric is to actually get customers to pay a certain amount of a certain subscription. And based on that average revenue, we calculate how much we are expecting annually. And that is the number that we're basing everything that we breathe and live on. And basically to reach this annual recurring revenue, the acronym is ARR, we had two options, whether to do inbound or outbound growth, and I'll dissect it later on in the presentation. But basically we were thinking of, should we go inbound, should we go outbound, and inside each pillar or under each pillar, there are tons of other activities and strategies and tactics we could do. But basically, very simply put, we knew that if you want to reach the annual recurring revenues, we have to delve into the inbound and outbound growth options that we could find. So what's the first thing to do in growth or setting your engine? There are two things that are done in parallel, which is doing a goal setting workshop or having the company aligned on the goals that are going to be part of the KPIs for the growth team. And to do it, there are two ways, the top down and bottom up. So basically the top down is the company itself decides on a metric that they need to achieve by the end of the year. So assuming we have a target of 100K, and based on the pricing plans that we've devised for the SaaS model, we know that the average revenue per user for the self-serve is around $100. That means that if I'm doing a math calculation, that means that on average, I need to get in this year around 83 paying customers to pay me on average $100 for 12 months, so that I'd be able to get the target. And that's the top down. You just start with the metric that you want to get. And then you do the bottom up meaning that for any successful growth team to work, it needs to have a sales funnel, or it needs to have a funnel where you basically know the numbers that you have to get in order to achieve the results that you're looking for. So in that case, if you see, the bottom up approach is basically the 83 customers that you're getting. To get them, when you start out, it's not just a start point and an end point. It's more of there are checkpoints in the middle. So if you are to get 80 paying customers, or 83 as this example shows, that means that not everyone that is gonna know you or know about you is going to actually get to the point where you get them to you monetize them. So that's where the funnel is built. Two things that you could do here if you're starting out: you need to build a lot of assumptions on the benchmarks and the conversion rates from one step to the other, and also you need to do a competitive analysis and see the industry benchmarks to be able to see if you can get the assumptions that you've put for the conversion rates along with the benchmarks for the industry. So in that case, if subscribing to a paid plan out of 200, 40% pays, that means that you need to get 200 to actually activate them to be able to pay the subscription that you have in mind. And to get this number, you need to get people, acquire them, and basically get them, in our case, you get them to sign up for a free trial. Apologies about the extra. So yeah, so you need to get around 1K signups, and from the 1K signups, you on average would need to get around 10K website visits. That means that, so you could do it by the conversion rates. If you know that the industry benchmark, out of all the visits you would get 10% to sign up. That means that later on you would be able to get this funnel. So goal setting helps you in a way, if you're starting out, to identify the funnel itself and to see whether this funnel makes sense for you to start on or not. Because at one point you might say, hey, I don't have the resources to actually get this amount of blog and website visits. So you'll either have to reassess whether you need to get to do more activities or to get more people, or maybe that the 83 paying customers wouldn't be feasible, or maybe that you need to enhance the conversion rate. So instead of focusing on an activity that would take a lot of time to convert, you would focus on other activities. And that basically starts as the core mandate of how you proceed with the growth engine as you go further down the line. So the second point is to basically do data analysis. So yeah, for data analysis, you need to be able to actually, if you're just started out, data analysis would be to put some assumptions. And once you do some iterations and you do some campaigns, you start to ask yourself some questions to see whether you're on the right track or you need to do some adjustments or like to correct course, so to speak. So in that case, I just took the funnel that we just worked on in the last slide, and I put it in a way so that I would be able to ask myself a bunch of questions, and the team would ask themselves whether the activities that we're going to work on would make sense for us to reach this target or not. So when you start out the engine itself, you start thinking about which part of the funnel do you want to focus on. Did you already do some activities where you have people that are aware about your product and has visited your website, or maybe checked a blog or checked something on social media that you posted, or you have people who you engaged with, and then you want them to take the next step of the funnel, where they basically decide which acquisition activity would be acquisition. So in our case, if you have enough people who actually checked out the website, the second logical step would be to sign up for a free trial. So you have to two things here. You have to identify and map which activity goes along with the different parts of the funnel. Actually, the funnel itself might include more than the 4 steps I had here, because the typical or like the pirate funnel would include retention and referral as well. And they could come in different orders, but this is for the sake of this example, I've added these 4 steps. And also you need to understand how much traffic are you getting and from which countries. You have different sources of getting traffic and getting awareness if you focus on the first part of the funnel, which is awareness and acquisition. So you need to have another funnel that's divided by the different sources and the different countries. If you're a global product or a SaaS market, you have a different market for your SaaS product. And you have to put it and to see the conversion rates, and you have to see the total numbers as well. Asking this question would help you identify which traffic sources are the best for you. Maybe it's organic, maybe it's referral, maybe it's a combo of social media ads and content. So as you go along, at first it would be assumptions and you'll have to test it out. But then as you go along, you start to feel like there are certain activities or pillars, maybe organic and social media are the best for the awareness part. But then the caveat here is that in every step of the funnel, you need to check the traffic source. So in some cases, if you are getting a lot of traffic from social media and ads, you have to see whether this traffic converts the same into acquired customers or activated customers or actually paying customers. Because in the case that you get in some traffic sources or in some examples you get a lot of aware people but they don't convert, then maybe it's good to do this activity for brand awareness and to actually have some leads that might be interesting down the line, but they're not the best ones to convert now because they don't have intent. So understanding which part of the funnel you're focusing on and mapping this to the traffic sources and mapping this to the different activities that you do definitely helps you and understand how you could enhance things further. So one other point that you should consider here is which traffic sources have the best conversion rates, as I was telling you. And you have to mix between the ones who affect the whole funnel, and you have to also be able to focus on top of funnel as well. Another point to consider is how long does it take a visitor to sign up, integrate, and pay. If you're doing activities for a month or 2 or 3, what's the cohort itself? Does it take, in our case, if someone visited the website and we push them to sign up, usually the sign up for the free trial, it takes 14 days for them. We tried different days. So we had the 7 days trial, we had the 14 days trial, and we tested which ones worked best. And eventually when the winner variation was the 14 days, nowadays we roll it out for all of anyone who's signing up for Instabug will take 14 days trial. And throughout these 14 days, we start to check the activity, whether they activated the SDK or not, integrated our product into their apps, or are they adding more people to the platform. And if we find them active, then we know that a percentage of them will be activated, and then later on they might be monetized. And if not, you just need to know why it's not happening. So you need to put a window where you test the different parts of the funnel that you are focusing on. Maybe the window would be days, maybe the window would be weeks or months. You have to just like take a decision on how many days or months or weeks are you going to wait to see the results, and basically take all the channels and take all the activities that you're working on, and to see how well do they take, or how long do they take, and how well do they do, and is it optimized or not. In one case you might need to optimize the length of the trial, or maybe you need to optimize the onboarding, or you need to make sure that you're pushing them to pay. So maybe you need to try different offers. Knowing this info is very important for you to be able to take decisions based on the type of insights that you would get. If you're spending a budget, definitely you need to figure out which traffic sources are you spending the most on, and are you seeing a positive ROI. Any activity that you pay money on, try to put it in a way, and I'll show you this in the upcoming example. You have to understand in each part of the funnel, how much are you spending to get this person, or get this lead, or get this prospective customer. So let's say I have 10 people who checked my blog, and I paid $10 to get them to check the blog. That means that on average it takes you $1 to get one visit to the blog. And then out of these 10 people, if only one of them sign up, that means that the sign up takes $10. And that is very helpful in identifying whether or not the cost per sign up, or the cost per integration, or the cost per acquisition itself makes sense or not. Because sometimes you are misled by you finding that a specific campaign has a very, very low cost per impression, or cost per click, or whatnot. But then when you look down the funnel, you find out that it doesn't convert at all, versus you focusing on another channel that maybe the cost per awareness or cost per acquisition is a bit high, but then it normalizes as they eventually subscribe. So you have to balance out between both. So the third thing you should focus on is the process. So if you're, I keep on saying, if you're just starting out, that means that you don't know which of the campaigns or activities that you're working on are best. So you and your team needs need to brainstorm all possible channels that are super focused on the persona. When I started out, I was talking about how at Instablog we were focusing on which personas, and our ideal customer profile was basically mobile first teams. But under mobile first teams, there are a lot of titles, there are a lot of different personas that you could tackle. So for us, we had to get 2 to 3 different personas, and for each persona, we brainstormed all the possible channels where we could hit this right persona. So one channel would be, okay, so for this persona, we can do content marketing, and these are the type of topics that would be relevant to this persona, and so on, as opposed to doing meetups for that persona, or doing events, or doing digital ads, or doing let's say microsites, or doing something with the engineering team to personalize the experience itself, or integrate a product like Intercom or Drift on the website or the app to do conversational marketing and to try to convert these people. All of these activities you need to brainstorm, and you need to prioritize them based on the goals. So whether you're focused on awareness at the moment, top of funnel, if you just started, you need to focus on top of funnel first and see how the top of funnel performs later on. If you have already done some awareness and you focus on acquisition, or you're doing activation or monetization, you need to know which goals are now the focus to be able to prioritize the channels accordingly. And also depends on how big the team is. If you're a team of 1 to 3 people, it doesn't make sense to try all the channels at the same time. You need to choose at least, or like maximum 2 to 4 channels to experiment with. There are tons of models that would help you basically choose which one makes more sense. The ICE model is basically scoring each activity based on the impact, confidence, and ease that each member of the team sees. So at the end, you just see the sum of the different impact, confidence, and eases of each of the experiments. And this is basically how you start with the first couple of channels that you want to experiment with. Under each channel, there are tons of tactics that you could do. So in content as a channel, you could have different types of content, different types of media, different types of distribution tactics. For each of the channels, you need to put all the different possible tactics. The resources, are you going to need in engineering help? Are you going to need the design? Are you going to get to purchase a tool? Is there a specific budget you need? And also, if you have a budget, then what would be the ROI, as I was telling you earlier? What would be the cost per getting someone? And also, are you going to get to focus on metrics here, to focus on acquisition or activation or monetization? As an example, let's say one of the team members decided to go for meetups, and they want to validate whether it makes sense or not. Before going into meetups, you could do research to figure out, for example, one persona would be developers enjoy going to meetups. So I'm going to research all the meetups available that I could attend as a sponsor or as a partner or as an attendee, to talk about the company or to talk about the solution that I'm offering. So after doing research, you find out that there are 30 possible meetups that you could, there are hundreds of meetups, but then after doing proper research on which meetups works best for our personas, you found that there might be 30 meetups that would be worth your while. And in each meetup, on average, there is around 200 attendees. So before even thinking of doing anything related to meetups, you can just do a funnel and see whether it works or not, and assess it against the actual versus expected. So expected here is basically multiplied the number of meetups by the number of attendees. So on average, you will get a pool of 6K developers to basically that they will see you. Impressions, and I added here impressions, as if you're doing an ad, and Facebook tells you you're gonna be seen by potentially 6K people. That doesn't mean that all of them will know about you or all of them will do an action, but it just means that you'll be present in front of this number. And based on industry benchmarks, or maybe some assumptions, or some into brainstorming session where we said, hey, you know what, out of this 6K people, we're expecting that maybe 20% of them would actually go on the website after we tell them about our product, and they would visit a landing page or a blog that maybe we tell them about. So on average, we'll get around 1.2K to visit. And then based on the actual benchmark that we have for the funnel that was in the earlier slide, we know that out of the 0.2, 10% would convert into signups for the free trial, and out of these signups, some will integrate and then some will pay. If each meetup costs 1K and we're going to spend 30K to be able to participate in these meetups, that means that for each visit, it's going to cost us $25. Same for signups, same for integrations, and same for paying. So the question here would be: is it worth it to do something like the meetups, or is it better to spend the money elsewhere? The first part of the question, definitely you need to calculate the cost versus the ROI. So here the ROI is that one paying customer costs you around 3K. But then earlier in the slides, we said that on average, each person pays $100. So that means that if you multiply the 10 by the 100, you'd be getting 10K. That means that you are going to spend 30K for you to get 10K. So that doesn't mean that it makes sense. So you either need to figure out a way to maybe bring the pricing of the meetups down, or maybe figure out a way to make the conversion rates better, or maybe that you're not going to do all these meetups, but you're going to spend anyways because you feel like meetups would have some of the activities that you will do will not be entirely based on the specific CPA, the cost per acquisition, or like maybe the cost to the lifetime value, or the amount people would be paying. Some activities you need to do it to establish credibility and to establish brand equity and to basically be known in the community. So in our case, we might, after we check all the other pillars and activities that we're thinking of, we might end up choosing to do meetups just for the sake of having brand equity or credibility, as I told you, in the meetups, or that maybe one of these paying customers would pay more than the $100, and also like the lifetime value itself. When I multiplied it, it was 10 people or 10 customers paying $100 for 12 months, but maybe the lifetime value is 24 months. So that means maybe I break even at some point early, like maybe after the year. But it's usually preferable to have the payback period in a period where you could basically break even and make. It's not a break-even scenario here. It's more of you making sure that the ratio between the budget that you're spending and the actual results you're getting is at least 2 to 1, if not higher, to make the efforts that you're spending worthwhile. So let me shift gears here a bit. A lot of people would be asking, okay, so how do I choose the different tactics that I will work on, or maybe the channels that I will build my engine on? There's a book called Traction, and this book basically rounds up all the different traction channels that you could work on. There are almost 19. They go everywhere from inbound content to SEO to trade shows to business development to conversion rate optimization to performance marketing. It includes everything that you could think of. And in each case of them, it shows you like the different industries that made use of specific traction channels. Each industry is different. So I rounded up some of the different traction channels that worked for a SaaS product like ours. We relied heavily on inbound content, doing a lot of search engine optimization, where we basically try to enhance our technical SEO standing. We try to enhance the keywords that we're adding on the pages, and we're trying to acquire more organic customers through SEO, and also doing backlinks and making sure that our domain is ranking very high. We already did a lot of community development because our persona, when we did thorough research on, we knew that our persona really likes having a virality effect, or like a word of mouth, where they would make better decisions when they talk to their peers. So we wanted to be part of the community so that whenever anyone is asking about our product, would know from a fellow developer. And also we focused a lot on sponsorships. Sponsorships here, we did a different take, since most of we're SaaS, we're digital, we're online, we're selling to the whole world. So we wanted to couple community development with sponsorships. And whenever we found out that there's a specific influencer or someone that is highly regarded in the community you wanted to partner up with, whether they are producing content, doing podcasts or newsletters, we always wanted to be there showcasing our product. And also we focused on conversion rate optimization. If already we get a lot of aware leads or aware prospective customers, how could we enhance the experience later on? Should we focus on doing different landing pages, signups, less? Should we focus sign up page? I mean, should we focus on doing a different onboarding flow? Should we focus on basically doing an activation campaign and so on and so forth? And also an outbound engine is something that we experimented with because we wanted to reach out to specific companies that we know would make sense or make use of our product. So these are all like channels we worked on and experimented with. To be honest, we've experimented with other channels that didn't work in our favor. As I in the first part of the presentation, I was just telling you about the failed learnings that we did at Instabug. And one of these failed learnings, for instance, was us doing a referral program where we got marketeers that are affiliates to promote our product. It didn't make sense after we did the experiment because we later on, when we did analysis and we checked the insights, we figured out that our persona is really tech. They really focus on tech, and they needed tech people to be the ones talking to them about the products, not marketing people. And since the product is very technical, the referral program didn't make much sense. So we iterated on the referral program and we made it a brand ambassador program or a developer program, where basically developers who are interested in getting free additions to the existing subscriptions that they have, or maybe have more features, they'd be referring us to other developers. So we ended up taking something that didn't work for us and we iterated on it to make sure that it works in another way, or we killed the project entirely and know that it's not the best for us now and we can revisit it later on down the funnel. A very interesting thing here is whenever you try any experiment, you need to document it very well. You need to say, hey, okay, so this is the channel, this is what I'm looking for, or this is my hypothesis or theory, and also these are the KPIs that I'm going to look after I finish the campaign or finish the experiment, and this is the timeline. And more often than not, when you first start out, you're going to miss a lot of the assumptions that you made. Maybe you put a wrong funnel and maybe it takes you more time than you expect, or maybe you don't get conclusive results. However, as time goes by, you start feeling that you know which of these channels might turn into engines. Like if, let's say, we take the inbound content here, we tried tons of different content, and now we figured out that some of the content pieces, or maybe the buckets or the topics that we talk about, convert people the most. So this type of content we're going to scale to make sure that anyone who comes and signs up and integrate the product, we will be pushing them this content, and we'll couple this with maybe retargeting ads, and we'll be doing a lot of conversion rate optimization to show them these types of content. And this is how you basically start connecting dots together and to figure out how to get the channels into one cohesive plan. So one of the most important things about your growth is your growth stack. Stack here is, if you're doing growth hacking or growth marketing, it's often synonym with being hacky and being fast and doing a lot of automation, since you're going to look at a lot of data and you're going to do a lot of iterations. So there are several tools I've rounded. There are many other tools. Some of them are free, some of them are more premium, but then these are just like on top of my head. And these tools would help you basically like make sure that your engine is, or like the start of the engine is at least making it smoother for you. One of the first things that we do, as I was telling you, whether you're doing a goal setting session, or you are doing data analysis, or you're setting the process or the campaigns itself, you need to have continuous planning with the team. And we're doing it in sprints. Sprints meaning that each week after we put the yearly goal and we dissect it into quarterly goals and then to weekly goals as well, you start dissecting all the channels that you're going to work on into sub-activities. And each week you do put all the activities that you're going to work on a project management tool like Trello, for instance. And it's basically like post-it notes. You have the to-do list or the backlog of ideas, and each week you pull up the ideas that you already have brainstormed on. You put which ones you're going to work on, which ones are you already working on, and which ones are done. That helps you in a way, if you are a big team, or maybe like even if you're a small team, to identify how fast the process is and how fast you're going through the things that you're supposed to work on. Did you get it done? And also it shows you the workload itself, and it gives visibility to the entire team on who is working on what. Part of the planning, we do it every week at the beginning of the week. It takes 1 or 2 hours. We set a very specific agenda where each person talks about their week, what they worked on and the results and the recommendations. And also we set aside some time to brainstorm new ideas, things that we didn't initially think of, or maybe like correcting course or looking at the metrics and seeing whether we're behind or actually must maybe like doing great when it comes to metrics, and we need to be focusing on doubling down other things. So planning is very important. Trello is one of the most important tools we use to help us regulate our sprints. The second thing, it's basically anything that we do in growth to build an engine, it needs to be scalable, and it needs to be repeatable, and it needs to be measurable. So basically the SMART, specific, measurable, all of these things I just told you about. So you need to have a very strong data collection platform. You could use something like Segment or Google Tag Manager to basically connect all the data sources together. If you are getting data from different social media platforms, and then getting data from ads, and then getting data from the blog and the website and etc., and then the dashboard, you need to connect them all together and basically display this data whether on an Excel sheet or a chart or a heap. You can visualize. There are tons of visualization and analysis platforms, and what you need to do is the metrics I showed you earlier, whether it's the funnel, whether it's the results, you need to be able to see it on a regular basis. Sometimes user behaviors, you want to see the entire funnel of a specific user. Heap helps us with this, and all of these tools, they come, I think, at if you're just starting out, they might have free credits, or they might have a startup discounts. Then as you grow, you start using more of their features. A third thing that's very important, an integral part of scaling the engine, is to doing a lot of A/B tests. Even if something works, you need to make sure that it can get better. So you need to do a lot of A/B tests. If at some point you know that, okay, my engine would be digital ads, SEO, and content, inside each of these pillars, even if you're scaling, you need to do a lot of A/B tests. A/B testing is to basically have different assumptions. You have a control and different variables, and you test the variables against the control. So tools like Instapage, Freshmarketer, Optimizely are all. There are other tools I didn't include here as well. You basically try, if you're an app, it may be Optimize, or Firebase does A/B testing as well. You want to test for conversion rates, and you want to test to see if let's say there are like time on page, bounce rates. There are tons of metrics that you could look for, but these tools are very helpful when it comes to iterating and doing enhancements to the conversion rate optimization part. So SEO has different, SEO is a realm on its own. But then if you just want to take a quick look on how your website is performing, there's a lot of free graders where you put the URL, it tells you exactly your score, how Google is scoring you. Are you mobile first? Are you optimized? Are there certain code snippets that you should optimize? Maybe page images that you need to compress. Also, Google Search Console, it gives you an overview on the different keywords that people are finding you on, and also the pages, how are they ranking. And then there's a website called Ahrefs. Ahrefs basically tells you how your competitors and how you are performing, what's your domain rate, how many backlinks are you having, which keywords did you lose or gain. So all of these tools are very, very, very important in you understanding how you're actually, how your presence is online. From these tools, you'll find that you need to do a lot of enhancements, and you need to always keep an eye on how you're performing, especially if you're expecting to get a lot of visits or get a lot of people online. One key thing that you could do if you're doing a competitive analysis and you need to figure out what your competitors are doing online, whether they're doing ads or doing different messages, there's SEMrush. It basically tells you if a specific company is a competitor of yours is doing ads, what will be the different ads they're doing, how much are they spending on, and what's their current bidding. That's super helpful in you identifying if you're going into a bidding war on a specific keyword, what to expect, and also what different activities. It helps you like being on top of things and understanding where your competitors are at. It helps you generate new ideas on how to basically beat them with less money and more creative ideas. Again, for conversion rate optimization and for understanding whether the activities you're working on are working or not, you have to do a lot of heat maps. You need to identify, if you're doing a landing page, which parts of the landing page are people most interacting with. If people drop off after the third fold, then maybe all the interesting info needs to be above the third folds, like meaning the top header and then the second part and then the third part, where the CTA should be placed, what are the things that they click on but they're not clickable. All of these things, you'd be amazed by how simple this is and how a lot of assumptions based on the user experience that you and your team create versus what actually happens. User experience is key. Sometimes we do a lot of assumptions that aren't necessarily correct, so you need to be able to validate your assumptions using the heat maps. And lastly, automation tools, meaning that, okay, so if you have a funnel and basically you want to make sure that when someone signs up, they go into a specific list, you can do so through Zapier or maybe IFT, which is if this then that. If you want to get notified on Slack when someone signs up so that you could email this person right away, if you want to get them into a manual onboarding campaign, if you want to integrate one tool with another to do a specific activity, you need to do a lot of automation. Automation saves the day at the end of the days, because there are a lot of low value activities and high value activities, and you need to spend most of your time on doing high value activities. So to build the engine and the process itself, if you are doing sprints, you know the targets that you are after, you are doing a lot of experiments and A/B tests. That helps you basically get on with the activities that you want to work on, and it gives you more time to look at data. It doesn't take a lot of time for you to be on top of everything related to growth. What it takes time is to basically figure out the right mix of things with the persona, as I was telling you earlier. Because building an engine takes time. Time here might be months, I'm not talking weeks, but at least the process itself, the experiments, the way you do iterations, the way you look at data, you could set this up in weeks. And also you could train your team to how to look at data and how to report data as well, and what exactly are we looking for. It could start by a very simple funnel, looking at the conversion rates and focusing on one part of the funnel and then moving down the line to another. And as you go and as you grow, you start putting more targets when it comes to getting more revenues. It depends on your North Star metric. And then maybe if the pricing experiment you do, it changes the average revenue per user. That means that if the average revenue per user is higher, does this mean that the same conversion rates will apply or not? So there are a lot of moving parts, but you having a process in place makes it so much easier in basically focusing on building the engine itself. So I wanted to keep it as short as possible. I threw a lot of information at you guys. Definitely there are other things that we could talk about for hours, but I wanted to leave you with always be testing. The initial or the core mandate of building an engine is to always have an assumption that this engine is always up for testing, and that this engine you could optimize all the time. You can like sweat, blood and tears is always a synonym with you building something that would be repeatable and scalable and huge. So I have faith in you guys to take growth where it needs to be, and take your company first and foremost to take it places. Please feel free to reach out at any time. I would love to talk growth anytime and love to talk about different strategies and tactics. I hope this was useful, and thank you so much for joining. I wish you guys all the great things in life, and also staying healthy and happy, and see you soon, hopefully. Thank you so much for joining, and see ya.